So many flies, god damn it. Hey, I'm Jacob, welcome to Choo. In this video I'm going to talk about my exploration into self-sufficient living, how I'm striving to become more self-sufficient, what that means to me, what self-sufficiency is, and if it's even really possible to be truly self-sufficient. We're going to talk about 5 core principles while making a bunch of delicious herbal teas from herbs and flowers that I found growing around my garden or that I've cultivated. Oh, hello Mr. B. But he's gone. So anyway, stick around for that. So here we have my triple mint extravaganza. This is spearmint, peppermint, and common mint that we grow here on our little block, all thrown in together with a hint of raw honey, and is perfect for a big full tummy after a feast, or if you're having some tummy aches from perhaps anxiety or something you just ate isn't sitting right. It's great for that. It's soothing and it calms a sore tongue. It's also very delicious. Ooh, yes. Oh, that's really good. What does it mean to be self-sufficient, and why should we strive for it? A quick Google will reveal a bunch of different answers, mostly centering around the idea that self-sufficiency means being able to provide for oneself without the use of outside sources or help from industry or government. It's pretty obvious really when you think about it like that, but it's a little bit more complex. It sounds great in theory, living off the land, sticking it to the man, but it's a bit of a fantasy. And I'll explain. Our modern lives are built off the backs of those who came before us. Our phones are made from materials from all over the world. Our fuel, our cars, our homes are often built by others. Our staples, our food, our education, our medicine, our pets, and so on and so on. I can go on forever, right? Most of these things come from outside sources, and to be honest, it would be pretty impossible to obtain full autonomy with every little aspect of our lives. I mean, I love video games. I have no idea how to make one. I don't know how to make a microchip. I need my computer to make this video, so how do I become self-sufficient with technology? It's just not really practical or possible. Not to mention, human beings are social creatures. We are pack animals, and that's a good thing, I think, for the most part. Else we would end up back in a hunter-gatherer type society, dude, and that's tough living, man. Also, we need each other. And that's natural and totally healthy. What we don't need are greedy corporations, corrupt governments, destructive industries trying to control every aspect of our lives to make a buck whilst destroying the planet and the environment in doing so. We don't need nor want a stack of bills piling up on our desks, forcing us into jobs we hate to toil away in order just to scrape by week, wasting what precious little time we have on that planet, our time that could be better spent pursuing a hobby or a true passion, something that will contribute to society. See, a lot of people find it a bit wishy-washy, the self-sufficiency movement, but the reality is, by freeing up precious time, you're also going to be able to give back a lot more as well. That could be on a family scale, spending more time with your kids. It could be revegetating the creek line, like what my wife and I are trying to attempt. Or it could be pursuing that hobby that might one day lead to some fantastic thing that society can benefit from. Being self-sufficient whilst trying to free up a little bit more time doesn't mean you're going to be a sponge. In fact, it's often the opposite. I'm by no means some sort of anti-government, anti-establishment, wishy-washy conspiracy theory hoodoo guru. I just think the way things have been going lately, they could be better. I'm 100% pro-science. I was a teacher for 10 years. My wife's a scientist. I can go on and on. Please don't take this to mean that I'm like trying to do some weird hippie alternative thing. I'm just trying to come up with a better way of living, I think. Or at least for me, what works for me. I guess the point I'm trying to make is becoming less dependent on government and industry to satisfy one's basic needs is something I think we should all be striving for. I think it's better for the planet. I think it's better for our souls, man. Not that I believe in souls, but you know what I mean. I also think it's better for society as a whole. I think everyone could enrich their lives if we weren't so beholden all the time. And that's what self-sufficiency means to me. It doesn't mean putting coiled metal in the ground to somehow get better carrots. It doesn't mean rubbing a topaz on a boil instead of having a doctor lance it. It means becoming less reliant on outside sources such as government, industry, whatever, to satisfy one's own basic needs. And that's the key word or key words, basic needs. Alright, T2. This is an absolute fantastic tea and it works very, very well when it's cold as well as hot. So it's refreshing on a hot day and soothing on a cold winter's day, and that is lemon, verbena, and myrtle tea. I'm also going to drop a little bit of honey in this because I just love honey. Then mix your lemon myrtle, which my lemon myrtle tree is really, really looking poor at the moment. I need to really do that. It's a subtropical tree, so it doesn't grow well down here. Lemon verbena grows very, very well down here. The only issue is that it does drop its leaves in winter, so you're going to want to harvest that and dry it out so you can have the delicious tea in winter. Add a little drop of honey, let that sit for a while. I want to let that sit for about 10 minutes steeping, and then you're good to go. Get out of here, bitch. Oh yeah. Oh man, that's so good. Ooh, that myrtle's nice. So what are the core components to self-sufficiency? What should we be aiming for? This is a question that I've been asking myself a lot over the past 4 years when I inadvertently started my self-sufficient journey. I just sort of happened into it. So it all started when COVID came along, and like many of us, I was looking for something else to do, and I didn't really want to go outside and get sick. The pub shut, and I didn't have anywhere to go to have a drink, so I really kicked off my homebrew making journey. It's all documented on my YouTube channel pretty much. If you go back to some of the earlier videos, around the time COVID kicked off, that's when I really started throwing myself into homebrew. See, I've always loved making grog. I've been known to have a few cheeky drinks from time to time. And I really love meat. I love honey, I love fruit wines, I love the chemistry of it all, I love the history, I love the drinking culture. I just really enjoy it. So the pubs were shut and I started making a lot more booze. I became fascinated, obsessed might be another word. I would share my creations with friends and family, and some of them weren't that good, but hey, it's free booze, so no one was turning their nose up, and besides,
the pub is shut.
And when COVID eased up and the pubs and bars and restaurants and everything were opening back up, my friends and I found ourselves not really going out to drink as often because we'd learnt to make so much good grog here, and it was so much cheaper than going to a bar. You see, alcohol tax in Australia is really, really expensive, right? So by making it yourself, you're saving a lot of money. I became self-sufficient, more or less, in alcohol making. Now, of course, I had to source ingredients from elsewhere. I didn't, have a crop of my own barley or whatever, but I saved a lot of money by creating the alcohol myself instead of going out. Drink responsibly. Don't become an absolute pisshead, but I realized we were saving money. My friends were saving money, so instead of going out, we were having parties here and we were drinking all of our own creations. We were sharing different things with each other as well, so it wasn't just me. My friends got into it, and it was a lot of fun because we had this shared passion. We were self-sufficient, more or less, and we were saving money. It was great, and it still is. We still do it today. The other thing is I really enjoy gardening. I get a real good satisfaction out of growing my own food. It means I don't have to go out. It's fresher, it's tastier. And what ended up happening was, as COVID came along, I decided, you know what, I'm going to really kick off the gardening. It was up and down at times. Sometimes the garden gets out of control, life takes over, but my goal was ultimately to grow as much food as I can. I'm not there yet. I'm not self-sufficient in food growing, but we're getting there. We don't buy herbs anymore, for example. We don't buy much garlic. We don't buy much tomatoes, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's how I started my self-sufficient journey. I just out of necessity and boredom, really. Now, I run a hot sauce company, and one of my more popular products is a spicy tomato sauce, for example, but it takes around 7 kilos of tomatoes, let alone all the other bits and bobs that go into it, to make around 15 bottles of sauce. Now, have you priced tomatoes lately? Towards the end of the season, they become very, very expensive, and I can't front that cost, which means that cost then passes on to the consumer. From a business perspective, this just wasn't viable. The good news was, my tomato crops are going absolutely nuts at the time. So the following season I doubled down on my tomatoes, and I tripled down this season. So now I am subsidizing my ingredients, but by growing my own tomatoes, garlic, onions, other things, sourcing from other growers, I've managed to keep my price down at a competitive level, and then I don't have to front that cost onto the consumer, so everybody wins. And that, to me, seemed like a good self-sufficient thing. Now, it might seem funny growing tomatoes to turn into sauce, to sell that sauce, to get the money to buy potatoes when I could just grow potatoes. We do grow potatoes, but I gotta run a business, so, But we become more and more self-sufficient with our ingredients, and it's also just nice to the consumer knowing that these tomatoes were hand-grown organically here in our yard. It's kind of cool, I think, anyway. So this epiphany, essentially saving money and growing more food, led me on my self-sufficient journey and led me to rediscover or maybe even discover in the first place, the movement of self-sufficiency. And that's what started my journey now. I'm obsessed with it. I'm just trying to mitigate costs where I can. So I came up with, well, it's not exactly my own, but I sort of curated 5 core concepts of self-sufficiency, the 5 things that we should be striving for. At least for me, different people have different needs, but these are the 5 things that I think are really important when you are trying to become more self-sufficient, essentially. Basic needs is the key words. So what are basic needs in today's modern world? Now, I'm not talking about traditional needs to live. I'm not talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm talking about modern, practical needs that will alleviate stresses and help us become less dependent on outside sources. These are what I think one should strive for. Priorities might change as you go down your journey, depending on your situation, country, and whatever. But these are the 5 things. Shelter. Obviously, you need somewhere to live. Food and water. We need to eat and drink to survive. Power. And I'm also going to throw in here heating and cooling, because we need power to run our computers. I need power to make these videos. I need power to power my vehicles, etc., etc. Speaking of which, transportation is number 4. It sounds a bit wonky, but I'll talk about that in a bit. And financial independence, I think, or at least sort of being more clever with your money, is the 5th core components to self-sufficiency, which isn't mentioned too often on too many forums, but I think it's really important. But in this world, you need money, right? But if you treat money like a tool and not a wealth-gaining goal, it makes sense. Even if you own your house outright, you're still going to have costs, the cost of maintenance. You might think, oh, I can do that myself. You still have to pay council rates. Our council rates are like $2,000. So even if you inherited a lot of money or a house, or you've paid off your mortgage, you still need money to even own a house. Just to live on a street, you need to pay council rates, you need to pay taxes, etc., etc. So money, whether you like it or not, is very, very important. And I think that's why I've put that there as the 5th core component to self-sufficiency. Even if you can only achieve sort of financial independence or financial stability partly, imagine having a 3-day weekend because you're only working 4 days a week. Or imagine if it was flipped and you're only working 2 days a week, or working 2 days a week. It does take a lot to become self-sufficient and maintain a property, especially when growing food. But that's what it's all about. It's about trying to free up those times so you can throw yourself into a hobby, reducing the amount of hours you need to work. As they say, work smarter, not necessarily harder. And that's why if you're good with money and you can obtain an income and you can subsidize your self-sufficiency with an income, you're going to have a lot more freedom, and this is going to allow you to go even further with your self-sufficient journey. So by minimizing the cost of living and having a steady yet not necessarily massive income is a real key component to becoming more self-sufficient. At least that's how I see it. I reckon it's almost beer time, but we've got time for one more tea. I'm going to make a wildflower tea, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to run around the garden and find different flowers that we're going to use. So we've got yarrow, which is really nutritious and good for you. We've got some nigella flowers, which are really lovely. We've got some sage flowers. This is azure sage. This is quite nice. A few rosemary flowers we're going to throw in there. I think that's it. I can't remember. I'll put up on the screen if I forgot. Okay, let's get to it. Woohoo! Nice. It's got an interesting colour, that's cool. It's kind of like pus green. That's yummy. Simple, but yummy. That's the other ones were had a bit more zing to them. Yum, 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 yum. Oh, that's quite nice. That's actually my favourite one so far. So let's talk about those 5 core components in a little bit more detail before we wrap up. I know this is a long video, but oh well. Shelter. We all know renting sucks. Not having the ability to turn the land around you into something you can use is tricky, but unfortunately not everyone can afford their own home. I get this, but striving for a home or land you can grow on, you don't necessarily have to own it, but if you can work it, that's what we're talking about. You need a roof over your head and land that you can work. Whether you own it or not is irrelevant. We wanted the freedom to do whatever we want with our land within the confines of the law, of course. We wanted the security knowing that we can't get evicted, so we toiled away and pulled our resources, waited for the right moment, and with some assistance, we didn't do this all on our own, but we did get some help, we bought a house. Now we just have to finish paying off the mortgage. We are throwing everything we can at that. Other than growing food, paying off the mortgage is our biggest priority to understand we have that security and also potentially financial security. The house will increase in value over time. If we can pay this off as quickly as possible, to alleviate those interest rate stresses. And one day if we want to downsize, we can flog this place and get something a little bit smaller and live off the excess money. So I think that owning your own property was really important for our self-sufficient journey. It's not necessary for everyone, but it was for us. Food. This is important. Without it, you die. Plus, it tastes great if you cook right. We all need to eat, and the cost of food in Australia anyway has really fucking skyrocketed, right? So, growing your own food is one of the key components to self-sufficiency. I will probably dedicate an entire video to growing food. There's so many other resources out there. We are not 100%, not even close to 100% self-sufficient in our own food growing, but we're increasing every year. We're getting bigger and bigger yields, and like I said earlier, there's a sense of satisfaction about that freshness. Growing your own food is a lot of fun. Also, by growing your own food, you're not contributing to some shitty industry, right? Now, there's a lot of food companies out there that grow food, supply food, organic food, healthy food, good food that isn't tearing apart the planet, but not too many people need convincing that some of this large-scale agriculture or monoculture is pretty fucking terrible for the environment. So even if it's not necessarily cheaper to grow your own food, although it can certainly be, especially once you get the ball rolling, not initially, but eventually, you're doing the right thing by doing it. You know where your food comes from. I honestly believe it tastes better as well. Being in the garden is also like a fitness thing as well. You know, you're exercising while eating delicious, nutritious produce that you've grown yourself. You know, there's something really rewarding about eating food that you've grown. I think like it's an excuse to exercise without actually having to go to the gym, really, you know what I mean? Clean water is also very important. For us, this was a no-brainer because our entire town is not connected to mains water. So for us, we're entirely self-sufficient when it comes to water. We collect rainwater, and we are very, very privileged to have a spring-fed creek that runs all year round that we can legally pump from, and that takes care of the garden. We might have to buy water this year because we lost the tank, and you know, we're getting there. Again, it's not necessarily about being 100% self-sufficient, it's about doing your best and trying. So the solution in the future is to obviously get another tank, maybe even a third one. Also, back to the food thing, anyone can grow it. That's one point I forgot to mention. Anyone can grow food. You can start small and work your way up, increasing it each year. It's not like you have to outlay much. Start with a tomato bush, start with a little spinach bush. That will just grow all year round. You have fresh spinach off your balcony. Power. We have mains power, but we are looking to install solar in the future. Why pay for power burning fossil fuels tearing up the land when there is a giant nuclear generator in the sky above our heads almost every day showering us with free solar power? We've run the numbers, and our calculations say that within 4 or 5 years, with the system that we're looking at, it would have paid for itself. We pay a lot of power. I work from home. I run a food business. I've got burners going on and off all the time. My computer's running a lot. Like, you need that startup capital. Transportation is also something I've put there as a number 4 because it might not seem that important, but if you think about it, it kind of is really important. We need to be able to get around. I need to get to festivals in order to make money. We need to gather supplies, and a car for most of us is the second most expensive thing we will ever buy. And did you know statistically, for most people, 90% of the time, your car is just sitting there doing nothing. You go to work, it sits in the car park. You go to the shops, it sits in the car park, doing nothing. You come home, it sits in your driveway, taking up all that space, doing nothing. I'd much rather have something else there, but that's what my car's doing. So statistically speaking, your car is the most inefficient, high-value asset you will likely ever own. So what does that mean? Well, I don't know. Because we need cars. We're so dependent upon them, especially with modern urban planning, the way everything's laid out. You can't not have a car, really. I mean, you kind of can, some people can, but transportation is important. All I know is I don't want to spend 50k on a thing that just sits there doing nothing 90% of the time. However, in the future, things might change. A lot of futurists and urban planners and even car manufacturers themselves have posited that when electric cars become more obtainable to the average person, then this issue will most likely be solved. Think about a giant, highly powerful battery sitting in your driveway. Now at the moment, you've got a big engine sitting there doing nothing. With a really good electric vehicle, you're going to have a big battery, a big power source sitting there, which could do something. Consider this, you drive to the grocery store, you plug your car in. A lot of modern day grocery stores allow for free charging. You do your shopping, your car's fully charged. When you get back home, you plug it in and it powers your house overnight. So you can charge your car via the solar system or externally and then use that to power your house, power your tools, power a wood chip or whatever. And modern electric vehicles are catering for this. At the moment, there's a few laws and things in different countries. It's completely different all over the world. But think about it. The thing that was once inefficient 90% of the time soon could be efficient 100% of the time by utilizing that battery in an electric vehicle that is just sitting there doing nothing. The last core component is financial independence, being a little bit tighter with your money because, like I said, we need money to survive. But if you look at it as a tool instead of a goal, it's just like anything else. We need to drink water. you need to have a few bucks. We don't need to become obsessed with the acquisition of wealth, but we do need to be intelligent about our finance. And this is a core component that a lot of people overlook. You'll see it in a lot of tiny home videos or a lot of off-grid living. A lot of these guys have worked for 20, 30 years before they started their adventure, because you need that capital. You need that land. You need the tools to work the land. You need to set yourself up. You need to pay council rates. You need to pay taxes. You need to pay fuel. If you want to go on holiday, you need money. There's no way around it. So being smart with your money is a core component to self-sufficiency. I think the world needs to change its outlook. Certain industries need to stop being so greedy, but until this ideology comes about, we need to do it ourselves. Start small. The age-old adage of think globally, act locally is something that self-sufficiency is kind of doing, because you're becoming less dependent on these massive factors. But you need to be smart about it, and it's not that easy. Like, we're not self-sufficient. We're getting there. We're self-sufficient in some ways. We're striving towards it. We get a kick out of it, but it takes time. Self-sufficiency to me is about the satisfaction knowing that I'm going to be okay and I'm going to be happy, and that's what it's all about. Instead of the acquisition of wealth, it's about the acquisition of happiness. I think we could all benefit from that mindset, and I think society would benefit from it as well. Being self-sufficient and working less doesn't mean that you're becoming a sponge. In fact, quite the opposite. It allows you to give back more. I think that's what self-sufficiency truly means to me, is being able to support yourself in a way that allows you to support others. And that's what we here at Choo are all about. We're just striving towards self-sufficiency. We're sharing our journey with you as you go. You can jump back on our videos and check out all our different stuff. We're going to be constantly updating. We're going to have a lot of fun too. We'll go back to doing more fishing videos and things like that. We hunt, we forage, we fish, we grow food, but every now and then we're going to be doing little videos like this. Well, this one's probably a very long video. God damn it, I need a beer. So, I've been Jacob. You've been watching Choo. I hope this was an eye-opener. I doubt anyone even made it to the end of the video. If you did, leave a comment and tell me what self-sufficiency means to you. I love you all very much. Lots of love from South Australia in the Adelaide Hills, and you'll see me in the next video, probably. Alright, I'll see you later.